I checked my watch for the third time in 5 minutes. The candle between us flickered, throwing shadows on the empty chair across from me. My fingers brushed the small velvet box in my pocket. My heartbeat thudded against it like it could escape. Before I asked the question, when Emily finally walked in, she wasn't smiling. No soft laugh, no quick kiss on my cheek like she always did. She slid into the chair like she was sitting in a meeting she didn't want to attend. "Sorry I'm late," she said flatly, eyes darting anywhere but mine. "That's okay," I tried to smile. "Rough day at work?" Her lips tightened. "Exactly." Something in her tone made my stomach twist. "Emily, what's going on?" She let out a sigh, leaning back. "Nathan, I've been thinking." "For a while, actually." My hand tightened around the ring box. "Thinking about what?" "About us." She finally looked at me, and the coldness in her eyes made my chest ache. "I can't do this anymore." I blinked. "Do what?" "Be with someone who's going nowhere." The words hit harder than I expected. Going nowhere? I forced a laugh, though my throat was dry. "Emily, I'm working at a coffee shop. Part-time." She cut me off like she'd been rehearsing. "I'm 25, Nathan. I want a future. Stability. You can't even cover your half of the rent without borrowing from Marcus." "Temporary," I said quickly. "I've been saving. I have plans." Her eyes flicked to my jacket pocket like she knew what I was hiding. "Plans don't pay bills. And honestly, I've met someone." The room spun for a moment. "Someone?" She nodded, almost casual. "Ryan, my boss's son. He's different. He has ambition, resources. He can give me the life I want." I stared at her, waiting for a punchline that didn't come. "So, all this time I didn't mean for it to happen," she said quickly, but her tone was too steady. "It just did. And now I know what I need." I repeated, my voice hollow, "And I'm not it." She didn't answer. I pushed my chair back slowly. "You could have just said you didn't love me anymore." Her gaze dropped. "I didn't want to hurt you." I let out a bitter laugh. "Too late." People were starting to glance over. I didn't care. I thought tonight would be the happiest night of my life. She froze, realization flashing across her face. "Yeah," I said, pulling the ring box from my pocket and setting it on the table between us. "Guess I misread everything." Her eyes softened for a fraction of a second, but she didn't reach for it. I turned, walking past the waiter who'd been lingering with 2 champagne flutes. The air outside hit me like ice. The neon signs blurred into smears of color as I blinked against the heat building behind my eyes. My phone buzzed. Marcus. I didn't answer. I just kept walking. The city sounds fading into a low hum. Somewhere between the restaurant and my apartment, the sadness turned into something sharper. Fine. She wanted stability. She wanted someone with ambition. I'd give her a version of me. She'd never recognize a man she'd have to look up to from the ground. And I swore, right there under the cold glow of the streetlights, I would never be that powerless again. The door to my apartment creaked open, and the smell of stale coffee hit me. I tossed my jacket on the couch and stood there for a moment, staring at the single lamp in the corner like it might tell me what to do next. My phone buzzed on the counter, Marcus. Again, I let it ring out, but the screen lit up with a text. "You okay, man? Call me." I typed "yeah" and deleted it. Instead, I just shoved the phone face down and sank into the couch. A pile of unopened bills sat on the coffee table. I stared at the red print stamped across the top one, final. Noticed the door rattled a minute later, and Marcus let himself in. "You didn't answer, so I figured you were either dead or sulking." "Guess which one?" I muttered. He looked around at the mess. "Man, this place smells like regret." I half smiled but didn't move. She left me Marcus. For some guy with a bigger paycheck, he sat beside me. Emily always liked nice things. She liked me too. Or I thought she did. I rubbed my temples. Turns out love's just another line item on our budget. Marcus leaned forward. "So, what now? You gonna sit here and rot? Or are you gonna do something?" "What?" Get another minimum wage job and hope she notices. No, he said, leaning back. Remember that app idea you had in college? The logistics one? You were obsessed with it. It was years ago, and it was genius then. It's genius now. You were talking about optimizing delivery. Networks like it was a video game. I shook my head. It needs funding, coding, a whole team. I barely have enough to keep the lights on. Marcus shrugged. So start small. Build a prototype. You still have your old laptop, right? Yeah. But no buts. You either stay here and let her be right about you, or you stand up and prove her wrong. I stared at the coffee table. You make it sound simple. It's not, he admitted. But you've got brains, Nate. You've got grit. You just forgot. Silence hung between us. The radiator hissed in the corner. You know she's with Ryan Harper, right? I finally said. Marcus whistled. A rich boy with the fancy suits. Yeah, I've seen him. Whole lot of money. Zero personality. Guess that's what she wanted. And let her have him, Marcus said. And when she's stuck in a glass cage, smiling at cocktail parties, you'll be too busy building something real to care. I let his words sink in. Imagined Emily scrolling through headlines and seeing my name not in. The classifieds for a job, but on the front page of Tech Weekly, Marcus stood. I'm grabbing us food. Real food, not that expired cereal crap. Fine, I said, managing a small smile. He left, and the apartment went quiet again. I reached under the couch and pulled out my old laptop. The thing was scratched. The charger frayed, but it still lit up. The screen reflected my face, tired, unshaven, eyes red. But there was something else too. Maybe it was the tiniest flicker of the guy I used to be. Still, the weight in my chest didn't let up. I closed the laptop after a minute and slumped deeper into the cushions. I'd think about it tomorrow. Tonight, I was just going to let myself drown. Sleep came slow, but when it did, I was still on the couch, broke, heartbroken, and not ready to move. I'm not going, told Marcus, as I stared at the wrinkled shirt on my bed. Yes, you are, he said, tossing it at me. It's one night. You might meet someone who actually believes in you. I don't even believe in me right now, so I'm forcing you. Come on, Nate. Worst case, you get free drinks. The networking event was already buzzing when we walked in. Everyone seemed to know exactly where to stand, what to say, how to shake hands. I hung back by the wall, clutching a soda like. It was a lifeline. Marcus spotted someone across the room and whispered, Clara Price, venture capitalist. Big name? Yeah. So she's the type who can turn your idea into a company. He gave me a shove. I stumbled forward, nearly colliding with her. Sorry, I muttered. She smiled politely. No harm done. You're Nathan Cole, I said, shaking her hand. Do you have a company? I hesitated. Not exactly. Just an idea. Her eyes narrowed in interest. Tell me. My mouth went dry, but something in her expression told me she actually wanted to. It's a platform for optimizing delivery routes in real time. It reduces wasted fuel, time, and costs. The system learns and adjusts dynamically based on traffic, weather, and order flow. Clara tilted her head. How far along? Still conceptual, I admitted. But I've done some basic coding. Could scale fast. For a moment, then smiled. You've got fire. I like that. Come see me next week. I'll introduce you to some people. Wait, I think you might have something here. But you'll need proof, not just talk. Marcus grinned like he'd just scored the winning goal. See, what did I tell you? Clara handed me her card. Don't waste my time, Nathan. If you're serious, start building. I'll mentor you. Through the early stage, I thank you. Really. She gave a small nod and moved on to greet someone else. Marcus slapped my shoulder. That, my friend, was your first investor conversation. I didn't even prepare, I said. Good. You didn't overthink it. Now you just have to work your ass off. The rest of the night was a blur of handshakes and awkward small talk. I didn't remember anyone's name except hers. Back home, I set the card on my desk like it was a golden ticket. Start building, she'd said. So I did. The first week, I barely left my apartment. My laptop sat on the coffee table, surrounded by coffee mugs. instant noodle cups, and a growing pile of sticky notes covered in diagrams. Marcus stopped by one evening. "You sleeping? Not much?" He eyed the mess. "Eating? Does ramen count?" He laughed. "Barely, but I'm proud of you, man." I shrugged, eyes glued to the screen. "It's just code right now, nothing impressive." Yet he said firmly Clara called at the end of week 2. Progress update. I told her about the prototype's core function, route mapping. That could adjust mid-delivery. She asked a dozen questions, poking holes, testing my confidence. When I hung up, my hands were shaking, but the ideas were pouring out faster than I could type. By week 3, my eyes burned from staring at lines of code for 16 hours a day. My fridge was empty except for water bottles and a jar of mustard. But I didn't care. For the first time since Emily walked out, I felt a current pulling me forward. Not away from the past, towards something bigger, and I wasn't letting go. The sound of my laptop fan was louder than my own thoughts. My fingers tapped until they ached, the keys warm under my hands. Marcus leaned against the kitchen doorway. "You've been at that thing for 12 hours. You planning to blink today?" "Maybe. Tomorrow," I muttered. He shook his head. "You're gonna fry your brain. I've got 2 weeks before Clara wants the next update. If I stop now, I'll lose momentum. Momentum doesn't matter if you collapse." I didn't look up. "Neither does collapsing if this fails." Marcus sighed and walked away, but he came back with coffee. "At least, keep your bloodstream caffeinated." The days bled together after that. Clara called every other night. "Where? Are you with the adaptive algorithm?" she asked once. "Close," I said, rubbing my eyes. "But the rerouting function crashes under heavy load." "Fix it," she replied, no hesitation. "Investors won't care how close you were." "Want results?" Her bluntness stung, but it kept me sharp. Every no from potential partners sounded like Emily in my head. Not enough. Not good enough. I turned that voice into fuel, each keystroke an argument I was determined to win. One night at 2 a.m., Marcus called from his room. "You're still at it?" Yeah, Tinner. Coffee counts." "No, it doesn't. I'm making grilled cheese." I chuckled without looking up. "Add an extra slice. This bug's not going quietly." By the 3rd week, the circles under my eyes could have passed for bruises. My desk was covered in empty mugs and sticky notes with half-legible scribbles. "Clara, checked in again. Your code's cleaner, but your UI is a mess. I'll fix it." "You'll fix it now," she said. "Nobody buys ugly, Nathan, even if it works. Got it?" It was like she could see straight through the screen into my living room and into my excuses. Marcus stayed out of my way most days, but sometimes he'd poke his head in. "You know, normal people go outside occasionally." "I'll go." "Outside when I've got something worth showing the world?" He smirked. "Guess I'll just tell the sun you're busy." Rejections piled up. Small businesses didn't want to risk switching systems. Large ones said I was too small to trust. One Friday afternoon, I slammed my laptop shut and cursed under my breath. Marcus walked in with a soda. "Bad call. They said no before I even finished the demo. Then find someone else." "Not that easy." "It's never that easy," he shot back. "But you didn't come this far to quit now." He was right. Again, 2 weeks later, Clara's voice on the phone was unusually upbeat. "I've got something for you. Set up." "Straighter? Good news or another lecture?" "Both," she said. "But mostly good. I convinced a major retailer to test your platform." For a second, I didn't breathe. "You're serious?" "They'll run it in one distribution center for a month. It works. We'll talk scale." I gripped the phone tighter. "I won't let you down. You better not," she said. But I could hear the smile in her voice. When I hung up, Marcus was waiting. "What happened?" I grinned for the first time in weeks. "We've got a trial." He let out a low whistle. "Well, look at that. Blood, sweat, and coffee actually pay off. It's just a test," I said, but my chest was buzzing. "Yeah," he smirked. "And your first step toward shutting Emily up for good?" I didn't answer. But inside, I knew he was right. It wasn't victory yet, but it was the first real win. Marcus stormed into the office, waving a sheet of paper. Guess who just hit a 96% satisfaction rate in the retailers? Trial. I blinked at him over my laptop. If it's not us, I'm going home. It's us, he grinned. They're in. They want to roll out to all their stores. I sat back, trying to process. That's huge. No, he said, dropping the paper onto my desk. That's life-changing. You just went from underdog to market player overnight. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Another email, then another, and another. Marcus leaned over my shoulder. Are those inbound investor offers? I said, opening one. Venture firms I've been chasing for months, he whistled. Man, they smell success like sharks smell blood. I laughed. Let's not invite any real sharks, okay? By the end of the day, I had 5 meeting requests and 2 term sheets in my inbox, Clara called that evening. So she began ready to start turning people down? Not really my style, I said. But apparently, it's what people in demand do. It's also how you get better deals, she replied. Pick wisely. The wrong investor is worse than no investor. We spent an hour dissecting each offer. Her voice was calm, surgical. This one pushes for too much equity. This one has a bad rep for replacing founders. This one might be worth meeting. When we hung up, I stared at the wall for a long time. I'd spent months begging people to believe in me. Now I had to decide who deserved the right. The next week was a blur of coffee-fueled pitches. I shook hands with people in suits so sharp they could cut glass. Marcus sat in on every meeting, scribbling notes. At one point, he leaned over and whispered, "If one more person calls your app disruptive, I'm walking out." Disruptive pays the bills, I whispered back. By Friday, I'd signed with a firm that got our vision without trying to own it. That night, sent Clara a single-line text. We're funded. Her reply came back instantly. Knew you would be. The first hires came quickly, a developer who could code faster than I could think, the marketing lead who spoke in strategies instead of slogans, and an operations manager who had a terrifying ability to make things happen. Yesterday, our office was a converted storage space with peeling paint, a single flickering fluorescent light, and a coffee machine that sounded like it was dying every morning. But it was ours. Marcus dropped into the chair beside me one afternoon, balancing a cup of the machine's questionable brew. You realize we're legit now? I raised an eyebrow. We've got 3 folding tables, a couch from Craigslist, and a printer that's allergic to paper. Still legit, he said. The media found us soon after. A local business magazine ran a piece calling me a rising star in the tech world. A podcast invited me to talk about the hustle behind the breakthrough. I hated that word breakthrough. Made it sound like one big moment instead of 1,000 small ones. Like all the nights of coding until my eyes burned could be summed up in a single headline. One evening, I found myself scrolling through the article again. My face stared back at me from the photo, smiling like I had the whole thing figured out. I thought of Emily then, wondered if she'd seen it, wondered if she'd regret anything. The thought lingered for a moment, sharp and unwelcome. Then I closed the tab. This wasn't for her. It never had been. Marcus popped his head into my corner. Pizza or burgers? I grinned. A celebration. The ballroom was a swirl of champagne glasses, clinking silverware, and murmured deals disguised as small talk. I was halfway through shaking hands with a logistics executive when I heard it, Daniel. I froze, that voice. I'd have known it in a crowd of 1,000. I turned. Emily. She looked different, polished in a way that money buys. Her hair was swept into some effortless knot, her gown black and sleek, a diamond catching the light at her throat. Beside her stood Ryan, broad-shouldered in a tailored tux, the same cocky smirk I remembered. You clean up well, she said, tone light but eyes scanning me like she was cataloging every change. So do you, I replied. Been a while. 5 years, she said. I didn't expect to see you here. Ryan slid a hand around her waist. Small world. Guess they'll let anyone into these things now? I smiled, polite, not rising to the bait. They do, especially the owner of the fastest-growing logistics platform in the country. Emily's lips parted, just slightly. A flicker quick as lightning crossed her face before she smoothed it away. Ryan's smirk only widened. Fastest growing, huh? Logistics. That's trucks and warehouses. Ryan chuckled. Quaint pays the bills, I said, sipping my drink, and a few other things. Emily tilted her head. So you're running it, not just an investor. Founder? CEO? I said. We've got 30 cities on board, expanding to 50. By year's end, she blinked, and I could almost hear the gears turning. Impressive. I read about a company doing something similar, streamlined freight. That would be us, I said, keeping my voice even. We rebranded, Ryan gave. A short laugh. Guess I'm behind on the news. I've been busy with Real Industries. Emily glanced at him just for a second, then back at me. Well, congratulations, you've certainly come a long way from working out of coffee shops. I still work out of coffee shops sometimes, I said. You're good for thinking. Offices are for scaling. Ryan rolled his eyes. Scaling. Yeah, sure. Ryan, Emily said softly, almost as if to rein him in. But I'd already decided I wasn't going to be the one to flinch. What about you two? Still in real estate? Ryan's grin tightened. Still killing it. Yeah, it's bigger projects. Every year, Emily didn't answer. She was watching me. Eyes narrowed just a fraction. It was like she was trying to reconcile the version of me, she remembered, with the one in front of her now. You always did have a knack for surprising people, she said finally. I shrugged. I just learned to stop asking for permission. A waiter passed, and I set my glass down on his tray. Enjoy the gala, I added, stepping past them. But Emily touched my arm lightly. Daniel, I stopped. Her voice was lower now. We should catch up sometime. Ryan laughed. Why? So you can get a tour of his trucks. Emily didn't look at him, just to talk. Old times. Made her gaze steady, maybe. Then I walked away. Weaving through the crowd, my heart still pounding not from nerves, but from the sharp, undeniable satisfaction of watching. I was halfway through my morning coffee when Clara walked in, a single sheet of paper in her hand. Got an interesting one for you, she said, sliding it onto my desk. I glanced down, scanning the name at the top. My chest tightened. Emily. Harper. I looked back up at Clara. Is this a joke? She raised an eyebrow. Not unless HR is suddenly into practical humor. She applied through the official portal. I read the resume again, line by line. Same Emily, older, but not much. Had changed in her career path except for the drop-off. The last listed job ended 4 months ago. What position? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Operations coordinator, Clara replied. Mid-level, solid salary, but she smirked. Definitely a step down from her LinkedIn bragging days. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the paper. She knows this is my company. Clara shook her head. Doubt it. Probably just shotgunning resumes. For a moment, I considered sliding it into the shredder. Out of sight, out of mind. But the thought of her walking into my office, expecting a normal interview, then realizing who she was asking for a job, it lit something inside me. Call HR, I said. Clara tilted her head. 2. Reject her. No, I said slowly. Schedule the interview, she grinned. You're going to enjoy this. 2 days later, I was in the boardroom reviewing quarterly numbers when Clara knocked and peeked in. She's here, she mouthed. I stood, straightening my jacket. Send her in. Give us 5 minutes alone before you bring in anyone else. When Emily walked through the door, I almost didn't recognize her. A high-gloss designer armor she'd worn at the gala was gone. Her hair was pulled back in a plain bun, and her navy suit, expensive once was, showing wear at the edges. Her eyes flicked to me, and she froze mid-step. You, she breathed. I smiled politely, as if greeting an old acquaintance. Emily Harper, please have a seat. She sat slowly, her posture stiff. I didn't know this was your company. Most people don't, I replied, leaning forward. But I suppose you'll remember now. Her lips tightened. This isn't, I raised. A hand will keep this professional. You applied for operations coordinator. Tell me why you think you're the best fit. Her gaze dropped to the table. I've run logistics teams before, managed international shipments. Coordinated expansion projects, like the one that bankrupted Ryan's company? I asked lightly. She flinched. That wasn't my fault. I let the silence stretch before speaking again. You'll be reporting directly to me. If you're hired, that means taking instructions from me every single day. Are you comfortable with that? She looked me in the eye then, her jaw tight. It's the job, yes. I studied her face, searching for the smugness I remembered. It wasn't there. What I saw instead was exhaustion, and something that almost looked like humility almost. Tell me, I said, leaning back. What would you do differently if you had a second chance? She hesitated. I'd be more careful about the people I trust. Wise, I murmured. Because trust is currency here. Lose it and you're finished. Her hands clenched in her lap. Are you going to hire me? Or did you just want to watch me squirm? I smiled faintly. The interview isn't over. Hi. For a moment, we just sat there, the air between us thick with old history. Finally, I stood. Thank you for coming, Emily. HR will be in touch. As she left, her shoulders were straighter than when she'd walked in. But I knew the weight she carried, now knowing her fate was in my hands, and I wasn't sure yet whether I'd crush it or make her work for it. I leaned back in my chair, glancing at the clock. Right on time, the door opened. Emily stepped in. Wearing a blazer that was just a little too big, her hair pinned up like she was trying to look older, more serious. But the moment her eyes landed on me, her steps slowed. You've got to be kidding me, she whispered. I smiled faintly. Ms. Harper, please, have a seat. She hesitated, then sat her back stiff. You work here? I folded my hands on the desk. Actually, I own here, her jaw tightened. I didn't realize, of course you didn't, I said, keeping my voice calm, almost bored. Shall we begin? She looked down at her resume. Right? Yes, picked it up, scanning. So, you've had some recent career changes. Tell me about that. She shifted in her seat. Well, after Ryan's company closed, I'd bankruptcy, I corrected gently. It was in the news, her cheeks flushed. Yes. After that, I took some time to reassess my goals. What? Raised an eyebrow. Reassess. That's a nice way of saying unemployed for 8 months. She swallowed hard. I was taking care of some personal matters. I leaned forward slightly. Emily, we value honesty here. You don't have to dress it up for me. Her eyes flicked to mine, searching for some kind of mercy. It's been difficult. I just need a fresh start. Interesting, I said, flipping a page. Last time we spoke, you told me I'd never make it without you. Does that sound familiar? Her face froze. That was years ago. I didn't mean, oh, I think you did. My tone stayed light, almost playful, but my chest tightened at the memory. People tend to mean things when they're that specific. She exhaled slowly. Are we really doing this? You holding a grudge? I shrugged. I'm conducting an interview. You're the one making it personal. Her hands fidgeted in her lap. I'm sorry, okay? I was wrong about you. I let the words hang in the air for a moment. Say it again? She blinked. What? Say it again, slower. She glanced toward the door, then back at me. I was wrong about you. Strange satisfaction warmed my chest, but I kept my face unreadable. Good. Now, tell me why I should hire you. Her voice wavered. Because I can work hard. I'm willing to learn. I need this job. Need I tilted my head or want? She hesitated. Both. I nodded slowly. All right, Miss Harper, here's what I'm willing to do. I'll offer you the position. Her eyes widened. Seriously? Yes. But understand something. I'm not doing this out of kindness. Her brow furrowed. Then why? Because, I said, leaning forward, I want you to feel the weight of every word you ever threw at me. Every time you called me a failure, every time you laughed. I want you to walk in here every day and remember who you're working for now. She swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. You want to humiliate me? I want you to understand, I said simply. Silence stretched between us. She finally nodded. When do I start? Monday. 9 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. She stood, smoothing her blazer, avoiding my eyes. "I'll be here." As she reached the door, I added, "Oh, and Emily." She paused. "Yes, welcome." To the team, her shoulders tensed, but she said nothing, slipping out into the hallway. When the door closed, I let out a slow breath. Part of me felt victorious. Another part wasn't sure if this was justice or just revenge in a sharper suit. Either way, Monday was going to be interesting. When Emily showed up on her first day, she avoided my eyes. "Morning," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Morning," she murmured, clutching a stack of onboarding papers. "You'll be reporting to me directly. Desks over there." I pointed without much ceremony. She nodded, walking past like she was crossing enemy territory. By lunch, the cracks in her confidence had started showing. Could you clarify the timeline for this proposal?" she asked, hovering near my desk. 3 days. I know we don't have extra time." "Welcome to project coordination," I said, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Got it." I leaned back. "Emily, if you're going to survive here, you'll need to learn to figure things out without running to me for every step." "Just making sure I'm doing it right," she muttered. "That's not the same thing as doing it well." She stiffened, but walked off without another word. By midweek, she was still fumbling. "You missed the client's formatting requirements," I said in our first team meeting. "I can fix it," she replied quickly. "Do it by end of day." Her cheeks flushed as the others scribbled notes. 2 hours later, she appeared again. "I might need an example template. I can't find it in the system." I looked her straight in the eye. "The system hasn't changed since I was in your role." "I found it. You can too." Her jaw tightened. "Fine." I didn't look away until she turned. That night, she was still at her desk when I left. "Long day?" I asked. She gave a short laugh without humor. "Guess I'm learning the hard way. Some lessons stick better that way." So the next week brought another slip-up. "The vendor emailed me directly," she said during a morning check-in. "They're asking for approvals I can't give." "Forward it to me," I replied. "And Emily, don't agree to anything outside your authority." "That's basic." "I know," she said softly. "I just didn't want to slow things down." Slowing down to avoid mistakes is better than sprinting into them. Her eyes dropped to the desk. "Right." By Thursday, she was asking fewer questions, but still stumbling. "You sent the wrong file to the client," said. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh God, which one?" "The draft, not the final." "I'll resend right now." "Already did," I said, "but next time, double check before you hit send." She exhaled sharply. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" "No, but I am making sure you understand what it takes to keep this job." The silence stretched. Before she nodded, Friday afternoon, she came to my office. I fixed the budget spreadsheet. I cross-referenced all figures with the invoices. I checked her work. Not a single error. "Good, this is the standard." "Keep it there." Her shoulders eased just slightly. "Okay." Double quotes, over the next month. The mistakes lessened, but the tension didn't. She'd pass me in the hallway, giving a polite nod, but her eyes always darted away first. One evening I found her. I was finishing a report when I heard a soft knock on my office door. "Come in," I said, without looking up. The door creaked open. "It's me." Emily's voice trembled. I glanced up. She stood in the doorway, hair loose, eyes wet. "Emily," I said flatly. "It's late, I know. I need to say something." I leaned back in my chair. "Go ahead." She closed the door slowly and stepped inside. "I'm sorry for what exactly?" I asked, folding my arms. "For everything," she whispered. "For leaving you, for choosing him, choosing money over love." I didn't move. "Go on." "I thought you'd fade away," she admitted. "I thought you'd become nothing, and I told myself it wouldn't matter if I hurt you." The fluorescent light hummed in the silence. "But I was wrong," she continued. "I see you now, what you've built, you've become." Her voice cracked, and it makes me hate myself. I kept my eyes on hers, saying nothing. "Remember the nights we stayed up dreaming," she said. "You had all these plans, and I She broke off, blinking hard. I didn't believe in you. I believed in the shortcut, the easy life, and it destroyed everything. Her words hung heavy in the air. I watch you here, she said quietly. Every day, you walk past and you don't even look at me. You treat me like I'm just another employee. That's because you are, I said evenly. She winced. I deserve that. I deserve worse. But I can't, her voice caught. I can't stand knowing I threw away the best thing I ever had. Still, I didn't move. I came here tonight because I want to start over, she said. I want to try again.
Oh.
I let the words settle. Then I pushed my chair back, stood, and walked to the window. City lights blurred in the glass. Start over, I asked softly. Yes, her footsteps came closer. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'm asking for one. I turned halfway toward her. Do you think you can just walk back in after what you did? No, she said quickly. I don't think that. I can't stop thinking about what we had and how I ruined it. I exhaled slowly, my breath fogging the glass. You made your choice, Emily. I know, she whispered. And you didn't just choose him, I said. You chose the life you thought I could never give you. She swallowed hard. I was wrong. Were you? I asked, finally facing her fully. Because maybe you got exactly what you wanted back then. Lips parted, but no words came. You wanted comfort, security, someone who had it all. Already. And now you're here because you don't have that anymore. That's not it, she said quickly. It's you. It's always been you. I shook my head. No, Emily. You want the man I became, not the man I was. And if you couldn't love him, you can't love me. Her eyes glistened, and for a moment, I thought she might argue. Instead, she nodded just once. You've made that very clear, she said. Her voice was barely audible. I turned back to the window. No, I said quietly. You made it clear a long time ago. The silence stretched until I heard her steps retreating toward the door. The click of it closing behind her was softer than her knock had been. I stayed there, staring at the city, until the reflection of her face in the glass was replaced by nothing but lights. The pen felt heavy in my hand as I signed the acquisition papers. Congratulations, the lead attorney said, sliding the folder toward me. With the final valuation, you're looking at just over $1 billion. I leaned back in my chair. Guess that's enough to buy a coffee, maybe two. Clara smirked from across the table. You're ridiculous. The room laughed, but my chest felt oddly still. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about closing a chapter. You sure you're ready for this? Clara asked quietly once the lawyers stepped out. More than. Ready, I said. This company doesn't need me anymore. It needs someone who isn't looking in the rearview mirror. You mean someone like me? I nodded. Exactly. It's yours now. She didn't grin, didn't celebrate. I'll take care of it. I know you will. The news broke within an hour. Every TV in the building was flashing my face alongside. Headlines. $1 billion acquisition deal finalized. I stepped into the hallway toward my office one last time. Employees stared as if I'd grown a crown overnight. Whispers followed me like shadows. When I turned the corner, Emily was standing in front of the break room TV. Her hand was on her mouth, coffee untouched on the counter. Her eyes locked on mine. You mourning, I said flatly, walking. Pastor? You sold the company? Yes, for $1 billion. That's what they tell me. Her voice wavered. Why didn't you tell me? Didn't think you'd care. She stopped, glancing at the TV again. I didn't know you'd make something of myself. I'd finished for her. She swallowed hard. I didn't mean you did. Silence settled between us, thick as the carpet under our feet. I made a mistake, she said finally. Walking away from you, I thought I knew what mattered. I raised an eyebrow. Money mattered. Her lips trembled. Doesn't now. That's convenient. She stepped closer. Can't we just know? Her breath hitched. You won't even let me explain? Explain the day you left? I just didn't want to hear it. Her hand reached toward me, but I stepped back. Don't, I said. She dropped it. You've changed. I gave a humorless smile. That was the point. Clara appeared from her office down the hall, holding a folder. Here's the final transfer forms. Everything's ready. I took them, signed without looking up, and handed them back. I adjusted my watch. Right now. I walked toward the lobby, feeling Emily's eyes on my back the entire way. You can't just ignore me, she called out. I didn't slow down. The glass doors slid open, letting in the cool rush of city air. Outside, reporters gathered, shouting my name, cameras flashing. How does it feel to be a billionaire? One yelled. Free, I said. Clara caught up with me at the curb, so what's next for you? Something that doesn't involve boardrooms or press releases. Good luck, she said, and her voice carried more sincerity than I'd heard in a long time. I gave her a nod and turned toward the street. Behind me, through the glass, I could see Emily still standing in the lobby, watching. Overlapped with mine for a moment before I stepped into the sunlight. For the first time in years, my chest felt light. I didn't just win. I became someone she could never deserve.